Welcome to the Forest Harvest CBNE Forum 2021. Thank you for joining us this week as we foster information exchange, capacity enhancement, market engagement, and political action in support of the community-based NTFP enterprises. Please welcome our moderator for this session, Ms. Joanna de Rosario, the former NTFP-EP facilitator for Malaysia. She is currently the Executive Director of MY Transform, a consultancy working on sustainability issues, community development, and conservation with emphasis on research, facilitation, networking, and communication. Please give a round of applause for Ms. De Rosario.
Right, thank you very much, and welcome to this session on innovative NTFP research and local government policy. As we all know, local governments have been the power to make things happen for CBNEs with or without national government support. This session puts a spotlight on the great work being done by local governments in partnership with other players and stakeholders. We will also highlight the role of researchers who can provide insight into otherwise unknown values of NTFPs. These two sectors together can be a great support for regional NTFP development. We will have 3 speakers from Vietnam, Philippines, and Indonesia for this session. Please note that we will be recording this and there are translations for various languages. If you need a translation, please click the interpretation button below and choose your language. You may mute or unmute the original speaker. So our first speaker is the Director of NTFP Research Center of Vietnam, or the acronym NTFP-RC, a national research institution focusing on NTFP conservation and sustainable development issues. Dr. Pan Van Tang is an expert in NTFP silviculture. Please welcome Dr. Tang as he talks to us about policies for development of NTFPs in Vietnam. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Thang. I'm from the NTFP Research Center in Vietnam. It's in now with the specialized institute in charge of NTFP in Vietnam. Today, I'm going to talk about policy and orientation for development of NTFP in Vietnam. My present is 5 parts. Firstly, introduction in Vietnam. Secondly, current status of Vietnam. Thirdly, potential of NTFP in Vietnam. And fourthly, weakness and challenges in NTFP development. And finally, orientation for NTFP development. Next slide. Next slide. Okay. Dear ladies and gentlemen, about Vietnam, as you know, the territory of Vietnam stretches over 16 latitude. The forest ecosystem covers an area of 14.6 million hectares with 10.3 million hectares of national forest and 4.3 million hectares of plantation. Top 10 countries with the highest biodiversity. Home for over 20 million people, NTFP play an important role in economy, society, and environment of community living in and near forests. Therefore, sustainable development of NTFP become more and more essential and important. As for NTFP resource, in 12,000 peculiar species, there are about 5,000 species medicine. Next slide. 266 species for fiber group, 935 for oil and resin extract group, 400 species for foods. Besides, there are more 100 species for aromatic, 800 species for tanning, and 93 species dye in which for group with hue markings. Diamond includes medicine group, fiber group, or oil resin extraction group, and edible groups. Next slide. Next slide. As for NTFP plantation, and high value NTFP species in planting with new area includes pine, bamboo, cinnamon, star anise, cardamom, ginseng. The activity of planting NTFP are still small, scattered and tenure. Only a few species are grown on large scale when there is market demand. Seedlings are mostly local with low quality. Productivity is relatively low, sometimes tends to decrease. Some tree species tend to decline both area and quality of forest. The domestication of NTFP has been promoted successfully. Next slide. As for exploitation of NTFP, exploitation are still outdated, mainly based on experience, indigenous knowledge, outdated technology equipment. So productivity, efficiency, and quality of manufacturers product not high. Next slide. As for processing NTFP, the number of modern processing established in limit. Mainly is on a small scale without this technology equipment. We cannot ensure product quality requirement of the high-end markets. Only a few establishments invest for processing facility of medicinal herbs, essential oils, plastic oil, and handicraft. Quality management of NTFP has not been given due as lack of quality management standard, lack of modern advanced technology process guideline for NTFP processing. Local experience in processing and user long existing NTFP have not been fully promoted to diversity NTFP products. Next slide. About the NTFP marketing. The distribute and market channel of NTFP are diversified with many components and roles for stakeholder, household, joint stock company, and private company. The distribution of joint stock company and private company are extensive, play many different roles in different level of market trend. Private enterprise play the role of export NTFP. The circulation and distribution system of NTFP are not strict. Like the NTFP export market is an active product, has different main customer markets for NTFP product. Vietnam to dependent on the informal markets on not border, because the China market is easy, is client. They do not care much about quality, but they purchase the cheap and low. Almost Vietnam export NTFP as medium or low quality, not stable raw product without label indicating the origin and brand with low added value, like and consistency of policy to encourage development and NTFP in our country. Quality control NTFP cannot be paid attention to, so it cannot to meet requirement of the international markets. Next. About the export value of NTFP. Key NTFP product export includes medicinal herb, spice, extract, and rattan. Is account for 15 to 20% of total what NTFP market value. Output and export value of the exported NTFP have increased but gradually from 2010 to present. Next. About zone of NTFP. Zone NTFP play very important role in household livelihood and national economy. For household livelihood, NTFP supply essential goods, food, medicine, etc. Up to 20 million people in and increase income short for household, talking about 15% on average. For national economy, supply raw material to NTFP processing industrial officer export revenue about from 5 to 6% of forest product. Average growth rate increased by 15% for last 10 years. Next slide. As for NTFP development policy, there are main policy to be mentioned. First, degree of Vietnamese government about support capital, science and technology in the department for medicinal herb. This is the Prime Minister about Vietnam Forest Development Strategy for period of 2021 and 2030 orientation to 2050. The policy to encourage the development of the bamboo and rattan sector and the scheme on sustainable forest management and forest certification deal with forest quality management. Third, decision of the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development about the forest sector reduction project and NTFP development and conservation. Next slide. As for NTFP standard and protocol in Vietnam, the application of the certificate system and quality standard protocol in NTFP has existed for a long time. That's mainly at the level of industrial standard protocol for some key products. The introduction and application for system national and international standard have only begun to get attention early year of the 21st century. They can be divided into two groups. For one group, a group of international quality standard protocol and certificate for product processing management, example ISO, BSCI, Global Gap, Organized. Second group, a group of national standard protocol and certified system for management of production process, example Vietnam, Gap, BCU, the US, and product quality standard protocol, some main NTFP product. These standard and protocol are important to ensure quality product, sustainable and consistency, customer satisfaction, and product safety. They are part of requirement to enter these international markets. The standard protocol and also contribute competitiveness of regional product in international markets. Many privacy issue standard protocol have not been harmonized with regional and international standard and protocols. So products have not created the homogeneity and competitiveness of NTFP product in the Asian region. Next slide. About development potential of NTFP in Vietnam. First, favor nation suitable social cultural condition. Second, great potential of domestic demand for NTFP is increasing about quality standard and food safe and sustainable. Third, policy system related to NTFP development and is quite complete in being preferred. First, already forming a network among processing to consumption company, authority, technical, provide capital and production. The benefit from the production and development of NTFP bring high value. Six, the wood supply of NTFP is increasing demand. Next slide. The weighting and challenges, there are the 6 issues. The supply is unstable, unpredictable, very depend on product demand. The wood increasing strict quality requirement, competition in international markets, regulation on the quality of NTFP are unclear, consistent, not in harmony with regional and international standard and protocol. NTFP product is not as organized, innovative and professional. Procedure and export certificate and complicated and transparent.
Excuse me, Dr. Tang, you have 1 minute left.
Yeah, okay.
All right, sorry about that. Thanks.
Okay. Recognize product certification body and operate about the orientation for NTFP development. Long term, we have enhanced the market forecast. Next slide. Formulating strategy and planning NTFP production. Work preferring standard system of production. Next slide. Implement good quality management policy, apply advanced technology process during brand emerging NTFP product. Next slide. The short-term potential research to making plan for NTFP development sustainable to equality based on the market forex. Research by in scientific to proposal new technical solution to development NTFP and system common policy standard sustainable quality management based on international requirement. Apply to develop sustainable quality management process development and apply standard quality management. Certify of standard product development dynamic commercial channel during a database on NTFP. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hi, sorry about that, Dr. Tan. We have to keep to the time limit. So, but thank you very much for sharing. And I'm sure we'll get more questions and you can elaborate on some of the points you brought up just now. So our next speaker is Ms. Mary Lou Espina of Bukidnon State University, Philippines. With degrees in computer science and information technology, she is the Dean of the College of Technologies and a consultant to their food technology extension project entitled product development, food safety, and financial management project. Please help me welcome Dina Spina.
Good afternoon, everyone. And may I request to play my presentation? I am Marilu Espina, and I am going to talk about empowering the community through the extension program of Bukidnon State University. I will be discussing with you the Bukidnon State University Extension Framework, the Bukidnon State University Extension projects like Food Safety, Processing, and Entrepreneurship Project, and Product Development, Food Safety, and Financial Management Project. Bukidnon State University, or BUKSU, is located in central Mindanao, Philippines. Its mission is to develop competitive professionals who are committed to build a sustainable life for all through quality instruction, research, extension, and production. So one of the fourfold functions of the university is extension. To ensure the relevance of extension programs, BUKSU, in consultation with the stakeholders, adheres to the trusts that are geared towards the upliftment of the quality of life and poverty alleviation in the region. The Community Extension Trust and priorities of BUKSU is focused on the platforms that are based on the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, Philippine Development Plan of National Economic Development Authority, Department of Science and Technology, and based also from the discovered local needs of the communities revealed through researches. The program is entitled Empowering the Community Through Lifelong Learning, a Bukidnon State University Extension Program. So from this program, there are several projects that could be in literacy, environment awareness and protection, wellness and health development, and livelihood and technology. Bachelor Science in Food Technology is a four-year program that trains students to apply the principles of chemistry, biology, and engineering in the selection, preservation, processing, packaging, and distribution of safe food to ensure food security. As a component of BUKSU, the program is mandated to deliver extension services to nearby communities. Its extension projects, food safety, processing and entrepreneurship, and product development, food safety, and financial management projects aims to mitigate poverty and improve the food security of the partner communities through food processing and entrepreneurship. Our partner communities are the following: Tagmaray, Kalipay, San Luis Mabuhay Higaunon Tribal Council, or Takasama; Itoy, Amusig Higaunon Tribal Council, or Ayatco; Mat-i Manibay Kivolig Langguyod Higaunon Community, or Mamasila; and Rural Improvement Club. These are among the indigenous peoples organization served by NTFP Philippines. These communities have abundant raw materials that can be utilized into value-added products. BUKSU partnered with Non-Timber Forest Products Philippines in those projects to assist the indigenous people in creating potential products for their enterprises. The Food Safety, Processing and Entrepreneurship is an extension project in partnership with Barangay Canayan, Bukidnon. It is one of the marginalized barangays of the city. It was identified through the community-based monitoring system, so poverty indicator conducted by the city government of Malaybalay in the year 2010. It is mainly an agricultural area, producing varied crops like rice, corn, vegetables, legumes, and root crops. Being an agricultural community, there is a significant potential for value adding through food processing. So the students conducted a product development research on banana chips. And they also, the one who demonstrated the pre-processing of bananas for banana chips production. So as you can see in the picture, these are some of the students who were able to conduct the seminar training. Extension-related activities are embedded in some of the subjects. Students are engaged into experiential learning, where they participate in a community project that meets the community needs. And then they're going to undertake reflective activities. The active involvement of students through various extension activities better prepare them for today's global society by developing a strong sense of civic responsibility and applying the classroom concepts and theories into practice. So they were able to conduct seminar workshops on banana chips production. So they conducted the basic processing and they introduced cheese and sour cream flavor. That was September 9, 2017. Also, they introduced margarine and sesame caramel flavor, also conducted in the same year. And also about food safety. So they discuss about the basics on personal hygiene and basic on food storage and handling. After the technology transfer of banana chips, the community was able to go on production. And to further help the community and their enterprise, another series of seminar workshops were conducted. Financial management training is one of the components of the project. The training focused on product costing, pricing, and marketing. So it helped the recipients become aware of the different processes involved in the production and marketing of their products. So they were able to have team building that was held last November 2019. And they have a seminar workshop on implementing rules and regulation. This is to improve the dynamics of the newly formed organization. And in financial management seminar, they discuss about record keeping and product costing. Also, the extension project helped the community in the market linkaging so that more enterprises will sell the banana chips that they produce. An impact study was also conducted on this project. It is entitled Outcomes from Participation in a Community-Based Enterprise, the case of Barangay Canayan Women's Organization. The result of the research revealed that it had positive outcomes on the economic, social, and skills of the members, which lead them to strengthen the organization, deepen their commitment and participation. And this encouraged sustainability of the banana chips production. Product development, food safety, and financial management is another extension project of the BS Food Technology Program in partnership with Non-Timber Forest Products Exchange Program, or NTFP-EP Philippines. The three indigenous peoples organization selected by NTFP Philippines as its priority communities are situated within the Kimangkil, Kalanawan, Sumagaya, Pamali, or KKSP landscape. Based on the CLAPS, or Community Livelihood Appraisal and Product Scanning of NTFP, the raw materials that is abundant in the community are identified. After that, the role now of BUCSU is to conduct product development research by creating various product formulation and evaluating each formulation until the right formulation is developed. The main consideration in developing the products were accessibility of equipment. Second is simplicity of the process. Third, shelf life of the product and marketability of the product. For the Ayatco recipient, BUCSU developed a turmeric tea. So shown here in the slide are the excerpts of the product development research on turmeric tea. For the Takasama recipient, since jackfruit and guava are abundant in their area, BUCSU developed jackfruit and guava jam. After the product development research, the transfer of the food processing technology is done by food processing training to the recipients by the faculty and student extensionists. Once the community-based enterprise is already in full production, a monitoring is done to check on the utilization of the product formulation and to resolve issues and concerns encountered by the CBEs. In the case of Takasama, another research was conducted to resolve the problem in the production of the jams. For the Mamasila recipients, they were trained with the banana chips formulation. So we have here some pictures during the banana chips training by the faculty and students. In this time of pandemic, extension activities are so difficult with the restrictions in our community. Instead of going to the community to train them, the university prepared video materials that can be utilized in the community. I want to end my talk with this quote from Winston Churchill. We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. Whatever talent or knowledge we have, it is good to share it to the community. And in doing so, it will give us a fulfilling life as we witness how the community improved and empowered by the mere transfer of knowledge and technology.
Thank you for sharing your commendable work with us, Dean Espina. Our next speaker is Dr. Ani Nawir of C4. She is a forestry, socioeconomics, and policy scientist in C4's Forest and Livelihoods program. Her research team focuses on socioeconomics and policy aspects of community forestry, particularly the comparative advantages of small-scale forestry plantations and traditional agroforestry management in comparison to other investment alternatives. She also explores the interlinkages between local livelihoods and forest industry-based activities as part of a forest rehabilitation and restoration initiative. Please welcome Dr. Ani. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rosario. Yes, good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to see you all, and thank you for having me and inviting me. Okay, so yeah, I'm working with C4, Center for International Forestry Research, and for today's presentations, I will be discussing the one of the activities that we have been implementing in Indonesia, in particularly in the Eastern Indonesia and also in Java, under the title or the topic leveling the playing field, how the policy advocacy actually fostering the non-timber forest product based inclusive business model in Indonesia. So this is part of the Canopy project, particularly in developing and promoting market-based agroforestry options and integrated landscape management for smallholder forestry in Indonesia. This is funded by ACR, the Australian government, and co-coordinated with colleagues from the World Agroforestry Center or ICRAF. Next, please. Okay, so in my presentations, I will be discussing or presenting, before going to discuss about the main topic, how is the context that would be relevant at the national level, for our policy advocacy activities. And then I will share kind of our experience in facilitating the inclusive business model in West Timor, Eastern Indonesia, and another example, how the works done by the local forest management unit in collaboration with the cooperative in developing the inclusive business model through the ecotourism in Central Java, before I'm going to close my presentations with way to move forwards. Next, please. Okay, in setting the context, I guess it's the most important thing is under the current national social forestry programs, the government commits to secure the management access by local community with the target, which is about 12.7 million hectares. That would be like around 30% of the total state or forest area in Indonesia. The progress up to May 2020, it's about for 2 million hectares has been granted to about more than 6,000 forest farmers and the creations of about 7,000 social forestry business group. So our project, not under the participatory action research, is not really a social forestry project, but rather how we can leveling the playing field, for all of the community groups as part of the social forestry business group could actually, compete with the other investment options, basically by facilitating the policy platform for further integrations, how this, inclusive business model could be part of the local government planning and budgeting system, especially after the project has finished. So we can make sure that there is a sustainable enterprise kind of activities beyond the project time. So what do we mean by inclusive business model? I guess this is referring to what the main to the topic that you are focusing this week as the CBNE, the community-based non-timber forest product enterprise, right? So basically, what we want to foster or facilitate the business model in which smallholders, can be integrated into the value chain, and the market, and with the aim to improve, the overall competitiveness, of the these smallholders business group. And of course, this could be in collaborations on whoever could initiate this. And then inclusive means that we the constraints of making smallholder to market we try to address, and across by maintaining the business or the commercial objective, and they making sure that inclusiveness also could be part of the approach in developing these IBMs. Next, please. So why would like to regards to making sure that community-based enterprises can coping under the dynamic external challenges such as policy changes, a competition from the other sectors, you have to have a resilience institutional arrangement, starting with the community inclusive business model at the community level, and how this could be a kind of an entry point to facilitates more vertical integrations, from village to the provincial, and also a sort of providing recommendation how to translate the national policy into practice to the national level government, but also in each level of a government's level at the village, district, provincial, how we can also fostering more horizontal integration between sectors. So what we are doing, we are facilitating the grand strategy, documents, developments in collaborations with the local stakeholders, including governments and also community representative. And this also in line with the medium-term development planning that already produced by the local governments. So I guess the community inclusive model is something that you also, define as the CBNE, community-based, non-timber forest product enterprises, right? Next. So with regards to, how we can promote more community-based enterprises, I guess a different kind of approach should be introduced, at the landscape level, taking into account the different forest functions, whether it's a protected forest, production forest, and other type of the forest, and then considering also the landscape based on the watershed as our unit analysis. And then tree management aspect should be considered, whether it's for conservation, particularly for the upstreams management practices, and also addressing the multiple objective of enhancing local livelihood, and as well as how actually the environmental services should be part of the solution also as one of the model in agroforestry options. So I guess this is kind of provided a framework, and with this framework, I guess a different type of non-timber forest product could fit in this different agroforestry model, considering the the forest functions, with their ecosystem, and also with the watershed with regard to the zonation from the upstream, midstream to the downstream. Next, please. Okay, so this is the lesson then that we from our project facilitations process in Eastern Indonesia, particularly in West Timor. So in the beginning, we developed the grand strategy for integrated non-timber forest product-based management at the landscape level. So that include, the study to create the baseline. So we kind of try to map a different type of non-timber forest products along the watershed zonation area from upstream to midstream, and then also try to map what will be the non-timber forests are important to the local livelihoods. And then we also identify what will be a step or stages or activities that we need to do in the projects to facilitate the establishment of the IBM, the inclusive business model. So we would like to kind of facilitate the business center at the village level, and then doing the baseline. So whatever the kind of intervention from technical point of view are needed, so it's more tailored, addressed to the specific type of NTFP. Of course, working with the other team member to explore more how the domestication techniques could be applied and adopted by the local community, because most of the non-timber forest products are like freely harvested, directly from the forest. So I guess to maintain the supply sustainability of the product, the domestication technique should be explored and approached. And then we also conducting a trainings on a different aspect along the value chain, and including try to make the community based enterprise more literate about the policy. There are a lot of policy being produced impacting directly them, on the ground, but they don't really understand, the implications, and and then this is sometimes creating some counterproductive impacts. And then we also try to do a partnership with the microfinancings and the private sectors, in terms of creating the starting up package, as well as creating, the necessary policy as the overall kind of umbrella framework in which the partnership are possible to be initiated. Next, please.
Dr. Ani, you have 3 minutes left. Thank
Sure.
you.
So this is what we have been working on. So we working in parallel at all level. We start at district level, and then this has been adopted to the provincial level. But in the same time, we try to develop strategy how this could be internalized by the village government to get sustainability funding support from the village fund, for example. And this is just to give you some idea of the parallel activities that we have been conducted. Next, please. So, okay, this is what we have been facilitating in terms of leveling the playing field, the policy advocacy. So, we referring to the national strategy, we established the multi-stakeholder platform at the provincial level, and we are producing the overarching umbrella regulations, making sure the three components of business enterprise management, which is the area management, business management, and institutional arrangements, are supported by governor decree or the local government regulation at the provincial level. So anyone would like to make the interventions, they could refer this regulation as the justified arrangement for allocating the budget. So in the last stage, we show how to implement this policy. And in showing cases, we also now going back to the village level to establish the business center for forest honey production. There are 14 NTFP priority NTSP that has been identified, but we are focusing one on forest honey as the example how the implementation of this policy at the provincial could be applied. Next, please. So this is the example, the establishment of the Center of Forest Honey Production and Marketing. So this is, kind of the model where this center actually supported or consisted by the village government, the communities, and the village-owned business unit. And now we are in collaboration with the microfinancing who provide technical assistant as well on training for more commercial purposes, products packaging and branding, for example. And we are also working with the provincial government to the economic bureau at the provincial level of the governor office. And besides, we also maintaining collaboration with the more technical agency to provide the technical assistance and technical capacity supported program. Next, please. So I guess sometimes we think that NTFP only as a product, but according to the FAO definition, actually environmental service is type of the NTFP. I guess this is just a citation to remind us on that kind of definitions or scope of what are the non-timber forest products are. Next, please. So NTFP per se is not the main products here, but it's a package as part of the ecotourism, the community-based ecotourism. This has, provided a contribution to the local government revenues, and this is based on benefit sharing agreements. So this is just an example how this has been integrated, into a different components in community-based ecotourism managed by the local cooperative. Next, please. So this is the impact that we have been documented. So basically, it's addressing tenure and management conflict. The benefit sharing is 75 for the cooperative, with the local community group as the main members, and 25% for the forest management unit, and the contributions to the local government revenues. This is, the figures that I cited here. And yeah, I can still, there are some challenges. There is some equity issue. Business plan is still has to be, developed further to address the dynamic external kind of opportunity or also challenge. And the environmental impact study in terms of the carrying capacity has not been applied. That's another challenge. Next, please. So this is my last slide. So moving forward, I guess, model for partnership should be like promoting or fostering the inclusive business model. I think the partnership with the business sector would would make the opportunity or pathway for shifting or fostering inclusive business model to become more competitive business model. Next, please. Thank you. So that will be my last slide.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Ani, for that very interesting presentation. So right now we have about half an hour to open the session to questions and answers. And I would like to ask the participants to type their questions in the chat box. And please address your question to a specific speaker if you can. Yeah, thank you. So we would have about 20 minutes or 25 minutes for this. While we wait, maybe I can pop some questions to I only see Dr. Ani and Din Asfinar, but maybe is Dr. Tang on as well. So I have a question for Dr. Tang actually. So is Dr. Tang there? Can I hear him? Dr. Tang, are you there? Are you muted perhaps? Yes, you're there. Right.
Dr. Tang, is it okay if you open your video?
Video.
There. You can only be spotlighted if you open your video. There you go.
There we go. Okay, there we have it. All right, so a question for Dr. Tang. All right. In your presentation, I get this feeling there seems to be sort of mixed outcomes from all levels of NTFP development in Vietnam. When you talked about the development stages, you talked about replanting, exploitation, you talked about outdated facilities in the processing of NTFPs as well. How can you, how do you see these areas being improved? Not just with research, which is I think your strength, but also with government interventions. So how would the government of Vietnam provide support to these areas of NTFP development? Or have you had an experience of that already? If you could share, please. Thank you.
Can you repeat?
Okay, so you want me to repeat the question?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that I see there is a lot of mixed development in all the stages of NTFPs in Vietnam. You talked about planting, you talked about exploitation, you talked about processing. In processing, you mentioned outdated facilities that you have to make do with when it comes to processing NTFPs. So how can these areas be improved? Maybe you want to share from the research point of view as well, but also when it comes to government intervention. So how would the government of Vietnam help you out there? Is that clearer? Is it clear? Or can you hear me? Or you can't hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Now I answer. Vietnamese government have a lot of solution. The first solution, Vietnamese government to build the NTFP development planning and orientation from the 2021 to 2030 and orientation 2050. In the master planning, there are 4 issues. The first issue is related to research on NTFP. Second issue is related to development. Thirdly, it relates to how to planning of the NTFP planting area for the government to publish a lot of policy, new policy, how to encourage the NTFP example to we are how to support about the basis policy and investment policy and tax policy and to enterprise private enterprise support policy. In the NTFP research policy, the Vietnamese concentrate to how to create a new ceiling, new category. New category, the NTFP category is high, zero, and good quality. It responds about the international standard of protocol. The second step, Vietnamese government to encourage scientific how to planting, NTFP planting with high yield and sustainable. Second, Vietnamese to encourage scientific and the company to import new technique and new modern equipment from the from the American and European Union country and then applied in the harvesting and preserve and processing the company.
Yep. Okay. It's clear then that they have a plan in place and it's quite comprehensive, but it has just recently started. Yeah. So, okay, there's some questions coming in now. I will go on to the question for Dean Espina. I'll just read it. What is the research process at arriving at and finalizing recipes, development, and how do you involve students and other professors in the process? How and why did you choose to work with NTFP, and how can this example be inspiring for other universities in other countries? I think that's a good question. Yeah.
Okay. For the product development research, actually it is the partner NTFP who will tell us what raw material is abundant in the community. Then from there, it's actually the instructors, the professors, and the students who will conduct the research. So it is part of their subject already. Like if they're going to have this, what we call as product development. So part of the training of the students already. So once they are able to have the product, then it's after testing, it's okay, then they are going to transfer the technology to the community. How are we able to partner with NTFP? I guess it's there's a story behind. One of our faculty is a former employee of NTFP. So when she joined the academe, she was able to introduce to us the organization. And from there, we worked together and come up with meaningful projects for the community. And as in the academe also, we are so happy to be able to partner with this community and able to help in the progress of the community.
Right. You mentioned that the students and the professors, as part of the syllabus, will get involved in the product development based on the raw material identified by NTFP. How would the finalization of the recipes be? How would that be in collaboration with the communities? How do you work at that level? Because I think that's a question on that as well. Yeah.
Okay. as far as I know, because I'm not part of the product development team, but as I look into the process, what they do is they are able to have testers from the community. They have this step like food, if I get it right, sensory test, wherein they will let the other people test the product. Okay, so from the community, from the institution, from the Buksu as well.
Okay, I see. All right. Okay, so that's clear. So that's the steps that you need to follow in order to get to that stage. Yeah, I'm still waiting for a question for Dr. Ani. I don't see one, but I have one. Okay, so a question for Dr. Ani. How were you able to contribute to NTFP policy development in NTT? Yeah, considering local government may have its own agenda. We do know this sometimes at, I know I work with in Indonesia and that happens, but I also know that's very, very true to be in my own country and is changing over time. How to keep local government focused on the importance of NTFPs?
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rosario, for your question. I guess we identify first in the beginning, how important is the NTFPs to the local government economics, and their development priority agenda. And it happens because the ecoregions of NTFP and also the characteristic of the small island kind of base, governments, managements in terms of, natural resource managements. So apparently NTFP has a strong contribution in their revenues, like 70 to 80% of the the revenue. But the management and development has not really been systematically, developed, and then still the focus, there is the, we need to still improve the interconnectivity of different government agency to support and working in the same directions, in prioritizing the NTFP, because this has been important for the local economy, to the government revenue sort of things. So we try to map that first in the beginning. And of course, then we try to, understand what will be their priority, their agenda. So how, and then we identify there is a niche, in the agenda, and where, our, policy advocacy could fit in. So we take that opportunity as the entry point to work with them and collaboratively. So we engage with them, and then we develop a multi-stakeholder platforms really with the different agencies. It's not easy. It's a really a long process, to convince a different level of the government, from province, national, from province, a district to the village level. Yeah. So yeah, just identify the niche, as the entry points in within the government agenda of development.
Is this a recent endeavor, or can you already see the impact of some of the work, some of the research work, and some of the policy?
We are now at the last year in our project, so we would like to show, having a showcase how to implement the policy that we are facilitating at the provincial level by going back to empower the community-based enterprises. We choose the forest honey because we already have a study and baseline to support that, and then we I think this already started an impact, particularly for the local community incomes, because there's so many forest honey producers that are not part of this business center, or what you call it, the organizations of the forest honey producers, and they not apply a standardized post harvesting, for example, harvesting treatment. So by having them to be a new member, having facilitate the training for them, sort of thing. So the number of productions in terms of the supply have increased, and then the off-taker, can make this as sources of for sustainable products, to be part of the more commercialized business enterprises. So the income of the local community has been more secure, for the forest honey producers, and the local government has seen this as ways to empower community, their economics capacity in terms of economics. They provided a supporting local government budget as well. So
so they
yeah.
have given
Yes,
budget
yes,
from local government.
yes,
What about
yeah,
provincial?
yes,
Provincial?
from the district,
From the
from the
district.
provincial through the forest management unit. But
Mhm.
for the district level, they provided allocated the local government budget to support the establishment or the building of the physical building facilities for the establishment of the center.
Okay, that's good. So thank you for that. And I'll go back. I think we have a little bit more time. So I'll go back to Dr. Tang. We had a question from the floor. I'm just going to read it again. Dr. Tang, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll read it slowly. NTFP-RC Vietnam is 40 years old. Wow, okay. Can you mention some examples of how NTFP Research Center has produced research that has resulted in positive development for CBNEs? Research now from your side that has, you have had 40 years of experience, and therefore what research have you done that has had a positive impact on CBNEs from your organization?
Yes, in my center, we are established from the 1970s. Now we carried out a lot of projects from the 2002 then 2007. We carried out one project. It related to NTFP sustainable development, and it is the project to achieve a lot of good result. When we support about the CB and CBNE now they some CBNE to we they is developing example some medicinal company from in Lakai, in Hanoi, in Mandik, in Hating, and from 2015 to now, we carried out two projects. One project is related to medicinal value chain, inclusive value chain development. Now we support on CBNE two company how to link it with co-op Laokai agriculture cooperative and with some NTFP group in the commune how to link it from the farmer to cooperative and farmer producer and cooperative and company CBNE. Example on CBNE in Hanoi now to for community in Laokai, producer in Laokai to how to plant medicinal plant up to GICP and WTS and they to buy NTFP from the community and export to EU markets.
I see.
Second project, we now to carry it out about bamboo inclusive development value chain development.
Okay.
And now we carry support for eight company, and we create about 100 bamboo possible group in the commune. One commune, one is one group. When the group the community it support from the my government and support from the company. Now they active to produce some handicraft from the handicraft in the local commune, and export to EU and to buy
okay, that's good.
IKEA to support to EU, and that's the income, their income very high.
Fantastic. All right.
It's
that is something to be proud of, indeed.
70% income of the household.
Wow. How many? 70% increase in income?
Yes, so the increase in Nghệ An and Thanh Hóa.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. That's a success story, if I can say one. So thank you. Yeah, that's great. I will go very quickly now to maybe a brief response from Dr. Ani and from Dina Svinar. First, Dr. Ani, you mentioned that you worked with 4Ps, yeah? So it's not just public people, but also private. So can you briefly tell us how was that like working with the private sector? I think that would have been the FMU in Jawa Tengah, I think. Central Java, maybe, or maybe a separate experience.
Okay, thank you, Jonah, for the question. Yes, I guess I have a mixed experience working in the private sectors. In Jawa Tengah, it's not really a private sector; it's the forest management unit. It's part of the government, forestry agency authority at the
no concession licensor.
And well, they have the allocated, management authority provided by the by the national government. Yeah, okay. But working a private, we have also in the same project our colleagues working on the bamboo industries, working on that. So I think depending, I think working the private, if it's really something, at their best interests, that this is really helping them to make more sustainable raw material sources, for example, for their end productions. So I think that would be something that, would catch their attentions, and then nowadays there are more private-like concerns, to empower directly the local community. So there are a lot of them are working with the NGOs, because now also the general market kind of demands on the requirement to be more sustainable practices, right? Yep. So I guess this is, why so many private sectors, try to shift their paradigm as well, from, only them managing, their own whatever areas, in the forestry sector, for example. Now they involve more people in the inclusive ways. But of course, we part of the kind of, with the other stakeholders, part of the actors or part of the party that always have to kind of try to make sure that this happening in the right directions. Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah.
So a mixed bag. Yeah? And Dina Spina, you mentioned that things have changed because of the current pandemic. How you provide your extension services had to change as well. Do you see that? Of course, we really don't know what's going to happen in the next year or so. But do you see there being a new norm for extension services even?
Well, that's a very big challenge for our extension unit, especially if we are going to transfer the technology. Supposedly, we are going to demonstrate to them how they are going to produce the product. So far what we have done is we cannot have the virtual or the online training because of the limitation of the community wherein they don't have internet connectivity. So the solution is we record a video on how we do things in the laboratory, and then we are going to give it to the NTFP, and they will be the one to show it in the community. Then that's how we are going to do things for now.
Okay, all right. Yeah, for now, I guess that's what a lot of us have to depend on. And it indeed is a challenge when it comes to local communities. And of course, access to Wi-Fi and internet or handphone connections. Yeah. So yes, thank you. Thank you very much for responding to all the questions, both from us here and also from the participants. I'm going to try to give a quick summary of what I think came across as important. To me, in Vietnam, we can see that there is a strong potential for NTFP development, particularly in the last 10 years, seeing an estimated increase, seeing that graph that Dr. Tang showed, a USD almost 500 million in export value of NTFP in the country. However, there are challenges faced to support NTFP development from on all stages, from rehabilitation, exploitation, processing, and meeting growing market standards. I think that was a major challenge indicated in Dr. Tang's presentation. However, as he has shared with us through the Q&A as well, we can see that the Vietnamese government has truly stepped up, both in having a long-term plan for NTFPs and then interpreting that particular plan in legislation and policies. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, it covered a lot of areas for NTFP development. In the Philippines, Bukso has creatively used its key role as educator to provide the much needed extension services, particularly in food tech and linked to product development. That is a strong need in CBNEs. I know for one, that was a dying need for that sort of backup in Malaysia. They have also included the students in the university, which has a two-way impact, and worked with NGOs such as NTFP-EP Philippines to achieve this goal. I think it's an amazing initiative for where other universities in other countries could seek to duplicate, as indicated by one of the questions earlier. Yeah. Finally, in Indonesia, particularly East Nusa Tenggara and Central Java, whereby participatory action research has enabled the integration of policies from provincial, district to village, with the aim of creating community inclusive business models for NTFPs, particularly for honey and ecotourism. Here, I find that not only communities and government are involved, but also the private sector, which possibly helps the betterment of the industry or a company's sustainability policies as well. So even though there is a mixed bag of feelings coming from Dr. Ani about wanting to change private sector, but I think that that's the new chapter. We're so used to working with government and local communities. Often private sector is not the usual stakeholder, but more and more they're having sustainability policies in place, and it's an opportunity to work with them, I think. So thank you everyone for this session. But first, before we go, I think we need to have a photo taken. So I am going to leave this to the admin group to take the photo. I'm not sure how to do this because I'm just waiting for them. They've been telling me we need to take the photo. So
thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you also all the participants and the speakers, of course, and everyone for joining online. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, please open your camera and I'm going to capture all of you for a many times. So I'm gonna count 1, 2, 3 and you smile. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Okay, again. And 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you again.
Thank you.